Hello, my name's Dan. Don't go away. If you're here to hear a book being read, you're in the right place. As some of you know, I like to start some of my videos with a little side dish of music. Why? Who knows? Partly because I want people to know me when they hear my books being read. I do most of my composing on guitar, and my composing process is very much like hammer and chisel. It's one chord at a time, one note at a time, inversion, variation, extensions, all those words that you don't need to worry about. And I've been working on one for just the last couple days, and I thought some of you might find it interesting to kind of look over my shoulder. So I started in a C minor chord. In the last year or so, I've counted 15 compositions. And I'm playing, by the way, most of these at Free Moms at North Carolina State University. If you don't know about that, you should look it up. NCSUFreeMoms.org, freemoms.org. And every Thursday afternoon, I get to play for about 3 hours, mostly this kind of stuff, and then I play with the student. I messed up, but which is pretty common. I mess up all the time till I get everything hammered out, and then I start practicing it. I started out doing it straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And after a couple days of that, I thought, well, wait, maybe I should try this in a swing, which swing means it sounds like this. There's always a part B, and I'm really rusty on what that should be, but I end on a G. And it seems to me that the A7 that's a big switch. I'm changing keys. Anyway, that's enough. Maybe that's interesting to some of you. Now I'm going to start reading the book. Glory, chapter 2. We finally had 7 pieces of chapter 1. Chapter 2 is all one piece. It goes like this. Chapter 2. How good was it? Prologue. The man of God thundered, "No Ammonite or Moabite, even to the 10th generation, shall ever enter the assembly of Yahweh." Deuteronomy 23:3. Well, we'll see. We'll just see. Mama Rute! Mama Rute! A barefoot boy raced across dusty flagstones and hugged one leg of the old woman who had emerged into the sun-spangled courtyard. "Ah, my little Daybik," she cried, stooping to stroke his copper-toned locks. A young mother strode after her little runaway and swept him up with the dispatch of an over-fastidious mother of one. She leaned forward and kissed the grandmother's waiting cheek while muttering semi-intelligible apologies. "What? Am I not to be greeted by my only great-grandson? Life gives too few pleasures at this end. Do not take this one from me." Even after 60 years, the younger woman shook her head at the thought. Even after 60 years, the tongue is still colored by the East. The prominent cheekbones and slightly flared nostrils, the jaunty, wide-set stance. A foreigner still, after all these years. The squirming youngster strained forward from his mother's grasp, his arms extended toward the stooped and wispy-haired monarch. He cared not one whit about cheekbones or nostrils. "There certainly is a chemistry between you two," the mother puffed as she struggled to hang on to her grunting progeny. Of course there is. This one is mine. Let me have him." She hobbled toward the bench carved into the stone wall of the courtyard and laid her cane down. The mother released her impish treasure, and he shot like an arrow to the widespread arms of the old woman. The young mother stretched her sore back, wiped a strand of hair from her forehead. I'll be back. You stay gone as long as you can. The young woman cast a weary glance at the old woman, one corner of her mouth pulled back in a crooked smile. Or was it a grimace? It is not easy being wife number 2, the old one whispered, jabbing a crooked finger at the tired mother. Of course, my beau would say, not easy being husband number 2 either. Both women laughed at her joke. And it may not be easy for this boy, an only child, and yet, the youngest of 8. But, she nuzzled his pink cheek with her nose. This one is special. I pray for him. The young mother leaned forward and kissed the youngster on his forehead. You be good for Mama Jute, then turned and scurried out the open gate. Baby Dabiq settled into his great-grandmother's arms, cupped both hands to her ear, and whispered, Tell Dabiq again. Oh, you know I will. You know I will. The old woman took a deep breath, allowed her eyes to drift far into the cloudless sky, and began. Mama Jute was a young mother. Papa Obed was a little boy, just like you. She opened her mouth to say another word, but nothing came out. Already burning tears welled up under her eyes. Oh my, I usually get further than this, she chuckled, wiping her cheek with thick arthritic fingers. She looked down at the boy with apologies etched into her deep wrinkles. He was undaunted. He waited for the next sentence. The old woman took a deep breath, gazed off into space, and went on. Then, that morning, well, there it was. Where? High up in the sky. Over there? Dabiq said, pointing over the northern wall of the courtyard. Yes, my dear, over there, she chuckled. Everyone could see it. We came out of our houses and just stood and stared. Once again, her lip quivered, and she went on with a tear-choked voice. We stared and wondered and wondered and stared. Nobody said much, but we all felt very excited. Nobody went to work. We all just stood and stared. Then some began to cry. I began to cry. Mama Jute always cries, she said, shaking her head and looking down at little Dabiq. Then I went down on my knees. Many were on their knees. We didn't know why. We felt happy and scared. Then a young man came running into Bethlehem. The Lord has appeared in Shiloh. The Lord has appeared in Shiloh. The Lord, the Lord. He ran all through the village. Already many people were packing up their families for a journey to that place. In a little while, Boaz came in from the field. He had spent the night there with the harvesters. He came up to me with that look on his face. Oh, a look I will never forget. Come on, he said, we go to Shiloh. I grabbed little Obed and some food and some bedding. Boaz got our donkey. Even without dressing for a journey, we started out. The road was already full. Many people, all the people, some were laughing and singing, many were weeping, but most were quiet. We all were looking up, up, up into the cloud that went into heaven beyond the blue sky. It was 2 whole days of traveling, more and more people on the road, but there was no fighting, no anger, no fussy children even. Many sick and crippled too. Many were carried 2 or 3 times. Young men came running back the other way with their faces glowing. It is true. Yahweh is in Shiloh. He is saving his people. Finally, we came over the last hill, and there it was. Thousands and thousands of people, all over the hills. She waved a shaking arm in front of her, and yet more came. Nobody told us what to do. We all knew. We found our spot. We sat down and knelt with our faces to the ground. Many, many wept. Only children danced and played. Then the sun began to go down. The column of cloud began to glow. Oh, how beautiful it was. Oh, baby David, how beautiful it was. The old woman made no attempt to stop the tears now. She gazed wide-eyed into the high noon sky. The wiggle-ish boy moved not a muscle. He stared into the sky, transfixed as she. Chicana, Chicana, the people began calling it. The teachers and priests began to tell the people what it was. Many years ago, when Moses led our people, they said, the Lord Yahweh showed his presence in the Shekinah glory. For many, many years, Yahweh lived with his people, showing them his presence in the cloud over the tent of meeting. All during the time of Moses and Joshua, our great leaders. Then what happened? David asked, following his cues perfectly. Then it went away. Nobody knows when. It just left during the time of the judges, many years before Mamahute came to this country. And where is it now? David asked breathlessly, as if he were listening to the story for the first, not the 100th time. The woman's damp and furrowed chin quivered again. Oh, David, oh, my dear baby David, we lost it again. God left us again. At this point, even the precocious youngster looked as if he were about to cry. How? He whispered. The woman continued the narrative, taking a deep breath and letting it out through puffed cheeks. Well, the enemy came again. The Philistines? The little boy trumpeted, holding up one militaristic finger. Yes, yes, the Philistines, the old lady winked at her fierce interrupter. The Philistines marched into battle in Aphek, away toward the sea. Our military leaders met together and said, this is no problem. Now that we have God in the camp, we will take him into battle, and he will scatter our enemy in defeat. Uh-huh. And then? So that's what they did. We all shouted when the army marched out. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray for the God of Abraham! Hooray for the Shekinah glory! The shout was so loud the ground shook for the sound of it. The story had now turned into a war story, so the boy leaned forward with even more anticipation. The old woman played it up for his childlike glee. March, 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 she barked, taking David's hands and moving them in an exaggerated military gait. March, 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 march. Hooray for God! Hooray for Shekinah glory! She cried, lifting up his arms in the motions of a cheer. Then she jerked his arms down and became suddenly serious. But it was not good. The Lord had not told us to take him into battle. It was a terrible, terrible day. The enemy killed many of our good men and chased the rest into hiding. And worst of all, they killed Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli who stood beside the ark. And they stole the ark of the Lord. It was a terrible, terrible day, she said, shaking her head at the distant memory. It was bad enough that we lost the battle, but far, far worse, we lost the glory, David intoned with the utmost gravity. We lost the glory, the elder echoed for emphasis. It had been so, so good, and now it was gone. Do you want to know how good it was? The old Moabite woman stared at her squirming grandson. He nodded enthusiastically. Well, I can tell you how good it was by telling you how bad it was when it was gone. First, the man came running back from the battlefield with his clothes torn and wounds on his body. He ran into Shiloh, where many of us still waited for the ark to return. He ran up to the old priest, Eli, and said to him, Dear sir, we have lost a mighty battle today, and many men are slain. And Eli sat on his stool with fear and trembling. And your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead. And the old man sat on his stool in pitiful anguish. And they stole the ark of the covenant with the Shekinah glory. And when the man said that, the old priest fell off his seat and broke his neck. He was sad about the slain. He was sad for his dead sons. But when he learned that the glory was gone, he fell over and died of a broken heart. The boy, long trained for his part in the drama, produced the appropriate expressions of horror and chagrin as the old woman's tale wound on. And not only that, Eli's daughter-in-law was having a baby. The midwives came in to her and said, Good news! You are having a son. Bad news, your husband died just a few hours ago, and your brother-in-law with him. And your father-in-law died of a broken heart just a few minutes ago. And you yourself are about to die. Now, what would you like to name the baby? And do you know what she named him? Mama Rute said, looking sharply into Dabique's wide eyes. He said, though he had heard the story so many times he could tell every word of it himself. She named that poor little boy the worst thing that had ever happened to her. Dabique scrunched up his nose at the awfulness of it. Did she name him Papa's-Dead? Dabique shook his head. Did she name him Uncle's-Dead? Another vigorous shake. Or Grandpa's-Dead? Or even Mama's-Dead? The shaking commenced at every question mark. That's right. She named him the worst thing that had ever happened to her. And what was that? David pronounced the words with all the precision a 3-year-old could muster. Ichabod. That's right, she repeated. The glory is departed. The old woman relaxed from her exertion and leaned back against the warm stone wall, then spoke, more to herself than to her enraptured pupil. The glory left, and the glory never came back. She paused in distant reflection until a chubby little hand roused her to the present. And then? Then, she repeated, lost to the meaning of the question. And what happened then? He repeated, mildly irritated at the fading of his entertainment. Oh, then, she said, prying herself back into the present. Well, then the Philistines kept the ark for a while. And they got bumps? The excited boy chirped, anxious to hear one of his favorite parts of the tale. Yes, they got bumps, she imitated, motioning with her hands how bumps might grow on her arms and legs, and then on baby Dabique's, much to his squealing delight. It was awful for them. Many of them got sick and even died from their God's bumps. God's bumps? Dabique queried, laughing heartily at his newfound joke. Yes, God's bumps, she echoed, shaking her head at his childish cleverness. Then the ark came back. No glory, he said on cue. That's right. No glory. Many tried to get it back. Some men in Bet Shemesh even opened the lid to see what had happened. It was awful. 70 of them died on the spot. So our leader said, let's put this thing away where it will do no more harm. It is too scary. Let's see, where can we put it? We know, let's put it away off in Kiryat Jearim. Nobody ever goes there. So they did. They sent it to Kiryat Jearim, and there it sits to this very day. She waved her hand vaguely to the northwest. Nobody goes there, and nobody goes to Shiloh anymore either. They tore the whole place down. No one could stand to look at it anymore. Ichabod, Ichabod, she said, shaking her head slowly. The story was supposed to stop there. The afternoon's routine had run its course. One old woman had exhaled the ancient story of her life, and one wiggly youngster had absorbed it all for his generation. But this afternoon was different. He didn't jump up and run to play as usual. He sat, staring blankly at his pudgy upturned hands, just long enough for his great-grandmother to notice the rarity of the moment. Then he turned his eyes towards hers with the most somber expression she had ever seen on his sunshiny face. It was not cute. It was not even sweet. It felt more like terror. The air was charged with invisible energy. The hair was standing up on the back of her neck. I am going to get it back, the little Moabite announced, slid off her lap, and marched out the front gate. The old woman sat with her fingertips pressed to her top lip and her chin trembling. High in the heavens, the queen sat back and smiled, a tear glistening on her cheek also. Mission accomplished, she pronounced. Mission accomplished.